Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2025 Mazda MX-5 RF Grand Touring, otherwise known as the Miata. This is one of the most iconic sports cars of all time, and deservingly so because it is truthfully the most fun you can have behind the wheel. The 2025 Mazda Miata is part of the ND generation, which started in 2016, so this is almost a decade old, but still looks pretty fresh in my opinion. But I am very excited to see what Mazda's going to do with the next generation, or maybe when they make this an EV. Now, the price of Miatas has really been creeping up over the years. They used to start closer to $30,000, and the one I have here is about $40,000 for the MSRP. So the RF is the retractable fastback, which is going to be the hard top convertible option. All Miatas are going to be convertibles, but you can get a soft top or the hard top like I have here, the RF. And that is going to start at about $37,000 for the MSRP. With a few small things, this one comes out to about $39,000. So it is quite expensive given how small and truthfully impractical this vehicle is. Now, all Miatas come with a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine that is going to make 181 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. That gets you 0 to 60 times of about the mid 5 seconds, closer to 5.7 seconds as quoted from Mazda. This vehicle certainly feels quick off the line, although the high-end torque is certainly not there since it's really got less than 200 horsepower, but it's a very light vehicle clocking in about 2,500 pounds. So the Miata is relatively fuel efficient. You've got 26 city, 35 highway for a combined 29 miles per gallon. That's not bad. It certainly is better than some of the larger sedans and SUVs. But again, this is in the roadster sports car segment. It is super small, just 2 seats. The cool part about the Miata is that honestly, it doesn't have that many direct competitors, right? You've got more luxury things like the BMW Z4, and you've got the, basically its twin, the Toyota GR86. But at the end of the day, those vehicles are pretty different from the Miata, right? The Miata is going to be the only one that's offered truly only in a convertible, and it has that iconic heritage behind it. It's been around for 35 years now, given that the 2025 model year doesn't really bring any new changes, but introduced the 35th anniversary edition. I think they only made 300 of them though, so it's really not going to apply to most of the 2025 Miatas out there. Mazda gave the ND generation of the Miata a light refresh in 2024, so they gave it the new 8.8-inch touchscreen, which is standard, although it's only a touchscreen when you use Apple CarPlay and not the native infotainment system. Very strange. They changed up the front fascia a little bit. You've got full LEDs and these beautiful iconic headlights in the front fascia here. And you've also got some new standard features like radar cruise control and standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, there's really only 2 trims you can get for the RF. You've got the Grand Touring, which is going to be the lower one, and then you've got the Club above that. With the Club trim, you have the option of getting a $5,000 package, which includes things like Brembo brake calipers or Recaro seats and some really nice sporty designs to make your Miata much more special. But of course, that's going to crest the $40,000 price points. All right, let's take a look at the exterior of the 2025 Miata. So the front fascia, like I said, got a slight refresh in 2024, but really most people are going to not notice the difference here. You've got the very iconic headlights here. These are full LEDs, daytime running lights, and full LED headlights. You've also got auto high beams, which is a pretty neat, luxurious feature there. Otherwise, looks very, very similar. You've got the Miata, or you've got the Mazda badge front and center. I always wish they did something special for the Miata, something like the pony for the Mustang, right? Something similar to that, so that would be really cool. You've got a bit of a front splitter kind of sort of thing at the bottom there. It does make it look a little bit more aggressive. And of course, you've just got the iconic front fascia that looks like it's grinning at you, right? Like it looks like a little bug that's grinning at you. I kind of love that. I think it's really cool. But otherwise, the front fascia is really largely unchanged over the generations of the Miata. The color here is called Jet Black Mica. It is very dark, as you can see. Not the most interesting color, but it is a free option. The other ones are about $500, but you can get some really neat looking Miatas, and I really wouldn't go for black personally. Going into the side profile here, you've got some nice 17-inch alloy wheels. These are going to be the blacked out wheel design. It looks pretty nice. They got some new wheel designs with the 2024 refresh, but it's really classic Mazda, classic Miata. You've got some side indicators here, which is always cool. I think it's a very neat look that makes it look a little less boring on the side, right? So when you do your turn signals, all of these things light up to kind of indicate that as well, which is pretty cool. Otherwise, body lines, it's a tiny car. You can see it is super, super small. It feels like half a car, honestly, which is kind of cool, but that's what makes it such a hoot to drive. It's very short, as you can see. If I'm standing right next to it, I am quite taller than it, and that's not common with cars, honestly, these days. So you've got a very low roof height. You've got that sort of slanted roadster design. It's a very, very classic roadster vehicle. And this is going to be the convertible hardtop. So I can show you guys what that looks like in motion. I didn't really time exactly how long it takes to close and open. I know some vehicles, especially the luxury vehicles, talk about how it can, close and open in 6-7 seconds. This one's definitely longer than that, but it's a very cool process, very neat. Used it many, many times here in the beautiful California sun, and I love convertibles so much. They are super, super fun. The Miata is certainly not a luxury vehicle, so they don't have as many niceties. They're not going to protect you from the wind as much, like it's not as isolated. They're not going to have neck warmers and things like that, like in the Corvette convertibles. As expected, the Miata is a pretty low to the ground vehicle. It's got a low center of gravity, makes it so agile at those corners, and just, such a fun, agile vehicle. You do have keyless entry here, so you have a little button here that you can press to lock or unlock the vehicle. It's pretty nice, but honestly, the button doesn't feel as luxurious, but it doesn't really have to, right? It's a Mazda. And now finally getting to the rear fascia of the vehicle, not too much notable as well, right? This is a simple vehicle. It's simply fun to drive. They don't really care too much about the exterior design. It's done very, very well over the years, right? And people just like the cute design. I think honestly a lot of people think it's a very classic, timeless design, kind of like the Porsche Boxster, right? So you've got these iconic circular taillights. I love those, and you've got the little slit that comes out of those. Those are going to be your turn signal spots, and you're going to have a little fin that comes out right here. A very iconic look for the Roadster vehicle. You've got the brake lights up here as well, and very, very small windshield as expected. But I will say visibility is really nice with all of the rear view mirrors, the side mirrors, and everything. It feels very open when you're actually driving the vehicle, unlike the Camaro. So you've got MX-5 badged out right here. I really wish, it's always interesting that they don't say Miata here. It's just more of a fan club name, but I think it's actually kind of cool in a way. You've got Sky Active G on the side. That's what they call their engine essentially. And then you've got the rear view camera right here. And the trunk opening release button is actually pretty hard to find. It's pretty low down here. But if you get it, you can open this very tiny trunk, 4.6 cubic feet of cargo space. It's actually better than I thought it would be. I was able to fit a away carry-on on it and put in some, water bottles and other, backpacks and stuff like that. And it actually fit it pretty well. So it's a little deceptively deep. But it is the only trunk you have. There's no frunk on this vehicle. It's not a mid-engine vehicle like the Corvette. So don't expect to be hauling too much. Honestly, a grocery run is pretty much going to max it out in the capacity there. So certainly not what you would call a practical vehicle. All right, now going into the bottom of this vehicle, there's really nothing crazy here at the bottom. You've got twin tailpipes here. They look pretty good. It really completes the look of the Roadster vehicle here. And it actually sounds quite good as well. We'll take a listen here. Now I think that's pretty impressive for a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, especially in sport mode. It does sound quite good. But that's really why the Miata is such a successful vehicle. It is those driving dynamics, it's the sound, it's the feeling, it's the joy when you're driving the vehicle. But let's take a look on the inside, and I think you'll see why some people don't necessarily love having this vehicle as their only car. Let's take a look at the interior of the 2025 Mazda Miata. I took the roof down so that we have some more light in here. So you'll notice that you have this nice keyless entry right here. Pretty easy to get in, and you can see how small and teeny this car really is. Before we step in, I did want to show you guys the key fob. This is a new, sleeker Mazda key fob than we've seen before. They have the buttons on the side. Feels like that's a more common style these days, but I like it. It's sleek, it's quite thin. And this one is all black, so you can see the jet black mica metallic exterior color does match the interior in that it is literally just all black here, but it's not the most exciting interior. I don't think it'll be something we can discuss for too long. First off, I want to mention how wide the doors swing out, which is always nice when you have a car that has such a low height. Always feels like it kind of hurts to get in these cars, which is honestly one of the most annoying parts of owning a sports car, in my opinion, is just the pain you have to feel when you get in the vehicle and when you get out. It's certainly not, it doesn't make it easy for you. But the door panels look pretty good themselves. You have a Bose speaker system, which is really interesting because it's not branded right here. The only place you see it is actually in the headrest. So this is part of the Grand Touring package for the Miata, where you have a 9-speaker Bose sound system with speakers in the headrest, and you can barely hear the sound coming out of it. I don't know if it helps that much, but the speaker system itself is actually quite nice. So maybe it's because of the headrest speakers, but I can't really tell, honestly. Even if you put your ears right next to it, you can't really hear it that well. I do like the frameless windows. It looks very good, looks sleek. You'll also notice this huge piece of piano black plastic right here, which looks interesting, right? It's interesting, hard to keep clean. You'll definitely want to wipe it off every once in a while, especially if you're using the convertible, because things can get quite dusty. But otherwise, you've got nice materials here, right? You've got a lot of different leather, you've got stitching, you've got this thing that looks like carbon fiber here, and it just looks pretty good. I mean, pretty deserving of the $40,000 price points. All right, getting inside the vehicle here, this is already at 0.5 zoom, and you can see I am quite cramped. There really isn't much space. Most of your space here is going to be for your legs to stretch out, and even for your passenger, you can't really get much more space, right? You do have the ability to adjust your seats, but you can only adjust the tilt angle, so up and down, basically where your thighs are. You can adjust that up and down using this little knob thingy right here, and of course you can adjust it forward and back using the classic manual adjustment lever. And you can move the back, but you can't adjust the seat height, which is very interesting. So for taller passengers, you can't give more room to your head. And for shorter passengers, it might be harder to see. Though I will say visibility is quite nice. You've got a large windshield, you've got huge side mirrors, no big pillars to kind of block you and things like that. So it does feel very nice, especially when you take the roof off. So let's start by taking a look at the seats. So these are not power adjustable, but they do have some nice stitching and leather. On the lower trims, you actually don't get leather, you only get cloth seats, but the leather looks pretty nice. And again, here are the speakers in the headrest. You can barely notice them, but you've got some nice Bose branding there. Otherwise, seats are nice. They're actually quite comfortable. They're not super bolstered, but they feel nice. They do the job. Again, this car just isn't something you're going to want to be in for that long, honestly, because it's really meant for the thrill for, maybe 30 minutes to an hour. And after that, it's definitely not the most comfortable thing for long car rides. It just doesn't have that much space. You're going to feel a little cramped, especially if you're on freeways and you want to put the roof back up because the wind sound just gets kind of ridiculous if you're on the freeway. It just isn't going to be the most comfortable thing. So I don't think anyone buys this thinking it's going to be the most comfortable thing, but it is the best weekend driver that you can get at this price point. The $40,000 price point, it is a superb vehicle. So I do want to mention in terms of practicality, notice that there are no door pockets, right? There's nothing for you to put a water bottle or storage in your doors. You have a little bit of an insert that you can maybe put some keys, some coins or something like that, but there really isn't much there. However, you have these really interesting modular cup holders that you can take out and put them wherever you want. It's super cool. You literally just take it out and there's a few spots for them throughout the cabin. So you have one here as well in the center. So yeah, it's a very interesting solution, and I think it's kind of cool that Mazda does that. I wish other vehicles had that because, I like putting it here because as the driver, it's easy to reach here. But when I have a passenger, this kind of cuts into their already small legroom. One other thing people will notice is that there is no glove box right here. Instead, you have a little bit of storage here. This is an extremely small little area here, maybe good for a wallet or something like that. And then you've got basically the glove box here. So you can put some stuff in here, but obviously, again, it's not easily accessible if you want to put cups here. So everything here kind of just is a compromise, right? That's how Mazda got this vehicle to be so light and so agile, and that's how you get those driving dynamics. Make it a go-kart, make it as light as possible. You'll notice you've got this basically wind deflector right here. I don't really know how much it does, honestly, but it's there. You don't have any neck heating elements or anything like that. And the wind is pretty howling when you're on, more than 50 miles per hour with the top down. It can feel a little annoying, honestly. So I've only been using it when I'm going on local roads. All right, so otherwise the cabin itself, like you can see, is actually quite premium, right? It's all black, but you've got a nice contrast of different materials, right? You can hear all these different materials here. You've got some nice stitching. The buttons do definitely feel old-fashioned, right? These look like you know, it's actually kind of cool if you think about it, right? Like most vehicles these days just have screens, digital things, right? It's kind of nice to have a knob that you can actually use, right? And all these things are actually auto. So you can use automatic air conditioning and climate control and things like that. It doesn't look like it, but you do have that. All right, let's just start the car here so you can see what everything looks like. You've got some interesting startup graphics. Nothing too fancy though. And of course, with the gauge cluster right here, this is all super traditional. I think people will love that, right? You have a digital thing in the left one, and in the middle one, all you've got is just going to be your gear, and then the right one is fully analog. So you've got pretty much what an enthusiast dreams for. A very traditional gauge setup, feels very reminiscent of older Porsches. The one on the left-hand side here can be modified, so you can choose a few different things using this info button on the steering wheel, but there's not much to show. You've got your driver assistance thing here, which is pretty cool. I do wish that you could maybe make this front and center or something, but I'm sure Mazda's planning on revamping this to a fully digital gauge cluster at some point. But yeah, right now it looks good. I think people will really like this because it is very classic, right? People love that. This is the 8.8-inch infotainment screen running Mazda Connect. Very, very old system. It was really good back in like 2016. Now it does not feel so good. It is very snappy though, right? It's super fast. The graphics do look good and crisp, but it's not a touchscreen, which is super interesting because it becomes a touchscreen when you hook up wireless Apple CarPlay to it or Android Auto, which is so interesting, and I don't even understand how that works, right? Like, how is this not a touchscreen, but it can be a touchscreen when you use Apple CarPlay, right? Very strange combination of things, but the actual infotainment is pretty good. It's intuitive. All the settings live right here, easy to navigate through these screens. Sound settings are all in one area. Vehicle settings are in one area. Safety, you know, it's intuitive. I appreciate this more than the widget style that a lot of German infotainment systems are going towards. I do want to call out as well that I do appreciate these circular air vents. You know, I'm a big fan of these, although I think it's interesting that they chose a non-circular one here, right? So like this is kind of weird, right? It's a weird combination. You do have three-way heated seats for the two people in the car, and then you've also got two USB-C ports, no USB-A. I'm imagining that you could put a wireless charging pad here or something like that, and then this button here is going to be for closing and opening the top. It is very easy to use. I like that it's front and center, very simple. You've got a nice sport button here as well, so turn into sport by just clicking up there and then move back to normal by hitting there. Super, super simple. You've got the most basic possible gear shift right here, so click in, easy to move up and down. You've got manual as well and some paddle shifters. So all super easy. The handbrake here feels so cool to have, right? Like, how many vehicles have this anymore, right? Front and center. It feels so cool to use. And then otherwise here, you've got a lot of traditional things here. You've got your home button, navigation, all of the quick buttons here. This dial feels good, feels clicky, it's easy and responsive. This is going to be your volume control, and you got a favorites button as well. So all super basic, right? This is a very gimmick-free vehicle, which I think is just rare to find these days. And people who love that sort of just fun driving experience with no frills, this is it, right? This is like going to a restaurant and just getting the classic recipe that you know is going to be amazing. It's kind of like that equivalent. All right, going into the steering wheel here. Again, easy steering wheel, looks good, very basic. I do like how it's very thin. It feels very similar to Porsche steering wheels, which I love. Like, this feels high quality, it's nice and stitched, and it's leather wrapped. And this is also leather wrapped. So you notice a lot of cool, nice stitching throughout the vehicle. This is going to be your media controls on the left-hand side. Right-hand side is going to be your radar cruise control, which is standard, which is pretty cool. And it works well when you activate radar cruise control, shows up in your driver assistance display in the left gauge there. Super, super intuitive, super simple. No heated steering wheel on this one though. You do have some massive stalks right here for your turn signals and your light controls and your windshield wipers. Automatic windshield wipers are standard as well, which is pretty neat. And like I said before, you've got the two paddle shifters here. So yeah, everything is very intuitive in this vehicle. You've got a huge rear view mirror, which looks really cool. The tech here is nice as well. You've got a nice rear view camera. It looks very high quality as well, though it doesn't move while you park, but the quality is actually quite good considering how small the screen is. Of course, no 360 camera or anything like that. Those are a little too advanced for this. You do have blind spot monitors and rear cross traffic alert though, which is nice to have those standard. And the blind spot monitors actually show in the driver assistance display. So Mazda has done a really good job keeping this basic, but giving it the tech that people want. So I really think that this is a great offering if you're looking for a super fun weekend driver and just, you know, it feels like a go-kart, and so few vehicles can feel like that these days, especially in America. All right, welcome to the driving impressions portion of the review. Obviously going to be the best part of the car, so very excited to show you guys how this drives in daily life. I think it's an interesting part of this vehicle is that it's obviously super fun as a weekend driver, but how is it like to live with? You know, I've had this for about a week now in California, ran various chores with it, had lots of passengers and stuff like that. And you feel the limitations, right? Like, you know, when more than one friend wanted to come with me, sorry, can't do that. I only have one seat. Trying to get drinks, right? It's hard. The ride quality of this vehicle isn't great. Every bump feels pretty harsh. And, you know, we spilled a few drinks and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of limitations to this, and you have to understand that when you're buying a vehicle like this. But if you don't mind all of that, and maybe you have another SUV or a minivan, right, for the kids or whatever, this can be super fun and really be a dream to drive. Also, I think this is really funny because this is the closest the camera has ever been to me while I'm filming this part of the review. This cabin is just so small, right? You can see I've actually got a decent amount of headroom, a few inches right here, but that's not going to be the case for everyone. I had a passenger who was 6 feet here in the passenger seat, and for him, his head was basically touching the roof. You know, I think I saw in a review someone said that you don't so much as sit in a Miata as you wear it. So I thought that was really funny because I was like, it's so true. Like, this vehicle doesn't really feel like you get much space, right? It just feels like a go-kart, and I think that is so much of the fun nature of this vehicle is the fact that it feels very different from anything else that most people drive, and I'm so happy to finally drive one of these because I've been super looking forward to the ND. It's so cool, and it just really continues to live up to the excellence that you expect from the Miata name. Obviously, driving a lot of those fancier vehicles like the Porsche 911, the BMW Z4, they feel much more luxurious, the Corvettes, things like that, right? But the Mazda really just strips that all down, and if you don't care about all of the luxury niceties, this can be a pretty excellent deal in the fact that it's still less than, you can get it for less than $40,000, and this one right here comes to about a little less than $40,000, and it's got nice things, right? Sound system really impressed me for such a small vehicle. 9 speakers, you've got a subwoofer. Like I said, the speakers in the headrest really don't do anything. But also listen to the sound of this engine. It sounds great. Naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. And it sounds really excellent when you're in the vehicle. When you take the top down, it sounds even better. Sounds really glorious. Put it in sport mode, it holds those revs really high. It's really eager. You can easily floor it from, you know, a stop sign or stoplight and go to 40 miles per hour or something like that, and it still sounds really good. I'll try and do that a little bit here. Since this is a small vehicle, you can really hear it in the vehicle and outside. And yeah, that's 4,000 RPM right there. And it just wants to hold those revs high. In sport mode, it really does firm things up. I've been driving it almost exclusively in sport mode, which is pretty uncommon, but for a vehicle like this, where you're mainly probably going to be by yourself, it's just all about the fun, right? And this vehicle certainly gives you the fun. Look at this U-turn. So easy. So overall, I can't say enough good things about this vehicle. At the $40,000 price point, this is truly one of my favorite vehicles I've ever driven. It makes me really want to buy a Miata. I think when it comes time for the EV-ification of this, or, you know, even just the next generation, the NE or whatever they're going to call it, I would seriously consider having this, but I would also want an SUV as well. So it depends, you know, if you want to spare a second vehicle or something like that. I think this is an excellent choice to have fun, especially if you live somewhere where the climate allows for you to take advantage of the convertible and just the overall nature of the vehicle. Of course, this vehicle is only rear-wheel drive, so it's not going to be the most usable thing if you live in the Midwest or Northeast or something like that. But it on a curvy road, this is just so crazy. It's a blast. It's a whole new feel compared to driving a normal sedan, an SUV. This epitomizes the roadster and the reason why people love this vehicle. And I hope Mazda continues to make it, because it's just such a cool vehicle. And I love that it's been around for so long. I love that it's such an iconic thing. People are always looking for used NAs and NBs and NCs, and like, it's just such a cool vehicle to drive around. So if you know what you want and you don't mind some of the drawbacks of owning a vehicle like this, I still think this is probably one of the best offerings, if not the best offering at this price point. You get a very good combination of everything that makes this vehicle such a great vehicle to still drive. And the fact that Mazda still produces this is so cool. And I really hope that they have many, many more years on this vehicle, since there aren't that many out there like this anymore. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, you can click up here, subscribe down here, and I will see you guys in the next review. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.